Hi and welcome to today's video on graphing ratios.
Let's look at our table of contents. First, we have our introduction, then determining the ratio, filling in the table, and lastly, we're going to be looking at graphing.
Intro. Graphing ratios isn't as hard as you might think. In fact, the answer is already in the word problem itself. All there is to do is to use the information provided to fill in the graph.
Number 2, determining the ratio. To find the ratio, the first step is to look for information from the question itself. Look for the x and y variables. The step number 2 is that once you have found both variables, write the ratio in simplified terms if possible. Here's an example word problem. Every 2 hours, Donna makes 14 pizzas. Create a table and graph that shows how many pizzas she makes in 6 hours. The first step is to determine the two variables, which are time, the x value, and number of pizzas, the y value. Now let's write the ratio. Without simplifying anything, the ratio would be 2 to 14. 2 would be the x value and 14 would be the y value. The reduced or simplified ratio would be 1 to 7. Every hour, Donna can make 7 pizzas.
Number 3, the table. To fill in the table, the first step is to use the ratio from the previous step to fill in a table. The second step is to make sure you have filled out the correct x and y variables. So using the ratio which we determined from the word problem, it makes it easier to fill in a table to display it. To recall, for every 1 hour, Donna could make 7 pizzas. So to write that ratio, we can write it as 1:7, 1/7, or 1:7. On the left, the table displays how many pizzas she can make depending on how many hours she works. So if we look at this table, the x value is multiplied by 7 to get the y value. Here's another example. Let's fill in this table using what we've learned so far. Using the information we know from the table, we can determine the ratio is 2 to 8. However, we can reduce this further to 1 to 4. To fill in the empty x variable spots, we have to divide the y value by 4, and to fill in the empty y variable spots, we have to multiply the x value by 4. So for example, to fill in the empty y value underneath 3, we have to multiply 3 by 4 to get 12. And to fill in the empty x value above 32, we divide 32 by 4 to get 8.
Number 4, the graph. To graph a ratio, the first step is to use the information from the table, which shows different possibilities of the same ratio. The second step is to graph it. To graph in 3 easy steps. The first step is to use the ratios from the table, the x and y variables. The second step is to write the ratio in x, y format, or coordinate format. Then graph the points on the coordinate plane. Let's take a quick recap of the example from before. Every 2 hours, Donna makes 14 pizzas. So for every 1 hour, Donna can make 7 pizzas. So the ratio would be 1 to 7, 1:7, or 1/7. The last step is to use the coordinate points to plug it in into the graph. So here, it makes a linear line.
Steps from the beginning. Number 1, read the word problem and determine the x and y variables. Number 2, determine ratio from information given. Number 3, simplify the ratio if possible. Number 4, fill out the table using the steps from slides 8 and 9. Number 5, use information from the table to make the ratios as coordinate points. And number 6, graph the points on the coordinate plane.
Thanks for watching.
See you in the next video.